So, welcome again, everybody. We're back with Astrology, and today we'll be doing Anuradha Nakshatra with Astrology, and she's going to take us through the Beeja mantra and some of the key themes of Anuradha Nakshatra. So, welcome, Astrology. Namaste. Welcome back on to my channel.
Namaste, Dr. Paiji. I will just share the screen. Okay. So here we are in the first nakshatra of solar plexus chakra, which is Anuradha. So we started with Swati, went through Vishaka, and here we are with Anuradha Nakshatra, and it's two Beej mantras, which are Tam and Tam. So let us chant the mantra first, and Dam also. Here it is. So let us chant first the mantra. Om Tam Tham Dam Anuradha Nakshatraye Namaha. Om Tam Tham Dam Anuradha Nakshatraye Namaha. Om Tam Tham Dam Anuradha Nakshatraye Namaha. So, Anuradha Nakshatra. Let's first have a close look at certain words, certain verbs that these particular Beej mantras give birth to, and there are really many of them. I just put the most important ones here. So first of all, Tam and Tam, these are also Beej mantras for Chandika, for Durga Devi. And here we have also some different roots of the verbs. So Tam is to faint, Dam to control, Dah to burn, Dal to burst, Dat to give, Da to divide, to share, Da to bind, Dash to make offering. And Anuradha Nakshatra, similarly like Vishaka, but perhaps Anuradha even more, is very, very much connected with Radharani. And if we think of her, and if we now try to look at those verbs again from that perspective, they will actually make more sense, lot of sense. Because if we think of Radha, there are many of these stories, like she would hear the flute of Krishna or the name of Krishna, and she would just faint. So that's very interesting that's a Beej mantra here. And I actually also noticed that this is a very prominent trait of people who have very strong Anuradha Nakshatra. So the ruler of Anuradha Nakshatra is Saturn. And I have a friend, she has Saturn in Anuradha Nakshatra, and she literally is fainting, very often. And very often she's even fainting. It happened to her like really a few times, that when she was like singing bhajans a lot and so on, she would just faint completely. It's really amazing to observe that actually. It's really like Radharani's energy is very much reflecting for that person. And even if we look at all the other words here, to burn, to burst, Radharani was also very often using these words that I'm burning, because I want to see my Krishna so much. Because Anuradha is this very passionate nakshatra after all. So even though its ruler is Saturn, who we say so often that is a cold planet, but if we look at all the nakshatras actually of Saturn, they are all very devotional. So there's Pushya, which has Brahma Varchasa Shakti, so the power to reflect this divine light. We have Anuradha, which is so passionate, and Uttarabhadrapada, which is the highest devotion through humility, through service. So this is very, very beautiful. And even we see all these words here, Dash, to make offerings. So it's like this Aradhana also, Shakti here, very beautifully shown. Da, to bind also, and to divide and to share. So it's very special because we always say that Radha is connected to Vishaka due to this split also that she experienced with Krishna and so on. But still, due to her name being contained in Anuradha, it's also very visible that she is greatly connected. And even if we would have a look at the nakshatra, how she looks like, this is actually this picture from this set of Bengali pictures of the nakshatras. And somehow the first thing what came to my mind when I saw this picture was like, she really resembles Radharani in a way, because that's the only nakshatra also that stands on a lotus flower. which is also the symbol of Anuradha Nakshatra. And even if we look at her crown, it's very, very different than the crown of other nakshatras. And perhaps this would be even a peacock feather on the top. Very hard to say, but it's very, very interesting. And it's very special that lotus flower is a symbol of Anuradha Nakshatra, because Radharani also used to carry lotus flower always with herself. And she was playing with that, and she would even scold Krishna with that lotus flower, because it's this beautiful symbolism. Lotus is the only flower that grows in a mud, but then it rises above this dirt, above this mud, and it blossoms beautifully above the surface. And it's actually the only flower that you really can put as much water on it after it blooms as you want, but it won't hold even a drop, because once it's fully blossomed, it doesn't have to do anything with the world anymore. It's just spreading its beauty. And this is where, for me, what Anuradha Nakshatra is all about. It's about trying to beautify things, especially the relationships. And even when we see the relationship which might be, let's say, not so beneficial for us, or even the relationship which can be abusive, or even in a way toxic sometimes. I mean, if we could just look at, I always try to look at that from very human perspective. If we would try to imagine the relationship of Radha and Krishna, and let's take away from this story the part that Krishna is actually God, you would have actually a perfect example of toxic relationship, right? So it's really amazing to observe that also from that perspective as well. And of course, Krishna is the divine, so basically speaking, it shows also how, in my opinion, people who have very strong Anuradha Nakshatra can use this Shakti, this power of worship, in a very constructive way. Because if they turn this power to other humans, and so if they are going to be overly loyal to people who abuse them, or if they are going literally to, if they put too much energy into that relationships, because they tend to be very attached also. And this attachment after some time is really turning just against them. But if instead they would just put the same attachment, the very same binding energy towards God himself, it turns into devotion. So it's the same energy, but it's just used slightly differently. And I believe that this bhakti path, devotion, is the greatest remedy for anybody born under this nakshatra, really. And also, Anuradha Nakshatra is connected with 3 different vayus, 3 different winds in our body, different pranas. So this is Vyana Vayu, which is maintaining the body pressure, blood circulation. Then there is Samana Vayu, maintaining equal pressure in the body and digestion. And there is Naga Vayu, burping and hiccuping. And I find it particularly interesting that Naga Vayu is called the way it's called, because even Radharani herself, it was always said that she's carrying always with herself a talisman with a serpent. So it's also talisman, again, the energy of Jyeshta, but also the serpent. So Rohini, right, the star under which Krishna was born again. And she was even many times scolding Krishna, like, oh, you are like this black serpent that is just waiting to bite innocent girls. So it's very interesting in a way to see how all this symbolism is just keeps coming back, no matter from which angle we are looking at that nakshatra, really. And really revealing that really all these stories, these are just deep, deep archetypes, because the stories are just repeating themselves afterwards. And these divine beings just left their blueprint for us to actually understand ourselves better. That's how I perceive it. And Anuradha Nakshatra is similarly like Vishaka, has almost all planetary energies except Swadhisthana Chakra. But what is very powerful here in Anuradha is that the solar plexus chakra, so this transformative energy of the fire, is very present here as well. So the Mahadasha ruler here is Saturn, so it's root chakra. And then we have Manipura chakra, to which belong the Beej mantras of this nakshatra. And Anuradha dwells really in the heart of Scorpio, so this is again Manipura chakra. And this particular chakra becomes very, very strong here. But again, as we said in the beginning, whenever any chakra is activated and through the nakshatra. So let's say if somebody has a planet in this particular nakshatra, it shows that there's just karma stored there. So I noticed very much that especially if Anuradha is very strong, like let's say there are 2 or 3 planets there will be a lot of karma related to solar plexus chakra and also to digestion, actually. So these are like these little things, but if we really look closely at them, they make big sense, really. So that's what I wanted to share about Anuradha Nakshatra, and I'm waiting to hear what you have to say about that, Dr. Paiji.
Achala ji, this is beautiful about Anuradha, and you beautifully explained about the traits of Mata Radharani, and this is what I also very strongly believe, that this nakshatra is very strongly connected to devotees of Krishna and devotees of Mata Radharani, and her devotion and her dedication to Lord Sri Krishna. It's also about accomplishment. Radha means devotion and also accomplishments, and Radha means the subsequent Radha. So in the olden times, Vishaka was called as Radha, and the following nakshatra was called as Anuradha, which is the subsequent. And what you see here is Radha also, Radha also means like a small flash of lightning, or a tiny spark. And this nakshatra was called as the star of success. And what you see here is the Shakti which is associated with this nakshatra is called as a Radhana Shakti. Radhana Shakti means the power to worship and to gain. Again, you see over and over again when you talk about Vishaka, you talk about Anuradha, these 2 nakshatras have very strong connection to spiritual awakening and spiritual bliss, and also about worship. And in the olden times, this nakshatra, Anuradha, was also called as a Rohini of the southern hemisphere.
Wow.
Yeah, because Rohini is considered to be the nakshatra where right opposite you see, Lord Sri Krishna's birth star is Rohini, and right opposite to that you see this is, you know, um, Radharani's Mata Radharani's nakshatra, or rather it is associated with Mata Radharani. And what you see with this nakshatra is again, if you look at the deity of this nakshatra is Mitra, and Mitra is a Vedic solar deity of friendship and friendliness and companionship. So this is also and whenever you talk about in the Vedic times, in the Vedic scriptures, Mitra was never referred to alone. He always had a counterpart, which is Varuna.
Yes.
That's why called as Mitra Varuna. So again, this is another Devata Dvandva, or Devata Dvandva. What is Devata Dvandva? These are dimorphic pairs. Again, one body, 2 heads. Just like you had Indra Agni, then you have Mitra Varuna. So many a times I've seen that there is a very strong connection that people have with Anuradha and Shatabhishak. Shatabhishak or
Yes.
Shatataraka, because there are.
This is really beautiful, because if we think about it, Shatabhisha Nakshatra is connected with Kadamba tree, right? So
Yes,
again,
Kadamba.
and even about Mitra Varuna, actually, sun god was Ishta Devata of Radharani.
Yes,
So
very true. So beautifully, and Kadamba is a tree under which they say Radharani and Krishna used to spend most of the time, you know, playing the flute. They used to dance under the Kadamba tree. Again, you see there's connection with Shatataraka or Shatabhishak. Okay, they also call it Shatataraka as well, 100 stars. You know,
yes.
and then what you see is this beautiful picture that you showed me, the Bengali picture. It shows a lotus in one hand, and you explained it so very well. Lotus blossoms in muddy waters, and it is so beautiful to see when it blossoms. And its beauty is not tempered or hampered by the place where it is taking, where it is blossoming. So many of these people actually come from humble beginnings, Anuradhas, and then they really shine in their, profession, in their, in whatever activities that they do in their life. So Anuradha has those qualities. And another thing that I've seen is this is a very this nakshatra is also connected to many sages and spiritualists. I've seen um, Mitra and Varuna were supposed to be the fathers of two great sages, which is Agastya Rishi, and Vasishta. They
Wow.
were born from their mother was, you know, it was Urvashi, and Urvashi actually bore the child in a pot, and that's why Agastya Rishi was born from this union, and that's why they say Agastya was called as Kumbha Sambhava, and Agastya was born from Varuna, and Vasishta was born from Mitra. And there is also stories when you talk about he was called as Kumbha Sambhava means somebody who was born from Kumbha. Kumbha means support.
Yes.
And there are stories about where Agastya Rishi could have, he had actually drank the entire ocean and kept it in his belly. So they had great spiritual, practice. They had great spiritual uh, energies. These rishis, and I've seen many people who have this thing to even relinquish, um, you know, material life to go in search of, divine understanding. Go in search of the divine union with the God. So Anuradha is one nakshatra which can give you the spiritual spark as well. That was the lightning that I was saying, a tiny spark that can happen in Anuradha. So
Very.
so this is a beautiful nakshatra, and thank you, Achalaji, for coming and teaching us about this lovely nakshatra Anuradha. Is there something else that you wanted to add, Achalaji, related to Anuradha?
I think that's all.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much, Achalaji, and I'll see you again for the next nakshatra, which is Jesh nakshatra. So see you tomorrow.
See
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Bye bye. Thank you.